Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks to Creative Mornings, Caitlin, for inviting me, organizing it all. I wanted to start our time this morning by clicking to this slide, by having everybody try to remember the last plastic thing that you threw in your recycling bin. Or maybe to make it a little more exciting, think of some of the plastic things that you have in your home that you find that you're using frequently or enjoy having around for any reason. Now, I know that not everything that is made out of plastic and that we like to have around is necessarily silly, and that some of the things that we do have that are plastic-based are essential to society. If I had a corgi, I probably would buy little booties for it, too. But the reality of the situation is that, as many of you probably know, that by the year 2050, the weight of the plastic in our seas will outweigh that of all marine life within the ocean. My name is Anthony Solano, and I am a self-taught surrealist painter, currently exploring what I believe is the solution not only to our plastic problem, but really to all environmental issues that we're currently facing. That solution being for humans to no longer exist. Now, let's not dwell on how it is that we managed to finally take ourselves off of this planet, but whatever it is that ended up happening, I'm sure that we won't go down easily and we won't go down peacefully. However, I do believe that no matter the condition that we leave this planet in, nature's resiliency and ability to bounce back would allow this planet to really thrive without us around. The good news is that because plastics, as we think we know, begin to break down after 500 years or so of being exposed to the environments, this new life will be able to utilize all of our plastic stuff in many ways in the future. Birds will be able to use our stuff to make nests. New water pools will be created for this new life to be able to get comfortable in the water. And I think that without us around, new camaraderies would be created between animals that might not necessarily get along, and that's because they'll have a lot more resources and space without us here. New foods will be available that don't expire quickly. I'm sure some of them turning into some kind of currency. And with 8 billion of us on Earth today, and the expected average of smartphones that we will all own in our lifetime being 22, as well as only 22% of them being recycled, there's got to be plenty of them for this future life to enjoy once we're gone. In this beach scene here on the left called Playdate, and on the right, there's another little painting that I created called Microplastics Beach. You see a total of 6 hermit crabs. Now, this might seem like it is another one of those futuristic scenes that I explore and paint, but the reality of the situation is that out of these 6 hermit crabs living in our garbage, 4 of them I was able to actually use real photos as references for these paintings. because they were hermit crabs that were found in the wild living in our garbage. Photographer Sean Miller has been documenting these hermit crabs in Okinawa, Japan, for the last few years, and has also started a nonprofit organization, which Caitlin was talking about at the beginning, where he helps the hermit crabs that he finds be relocated to real shells. If you would like to learn more about his work or help with his mission, you can find more information at okinawanaturephotography.com. Now, let's rewind a little bit, because I think it's worth starting at the beginning. I've been painting for about 25 years, and I recall from the first time that I picked up a paintbrush in high school that the paintbrush had powers that I could feel right from the beginning. But I did paint within the abstract expression for about 19 of those years prior to beginning to paint within the surreal genre that I currently paint. And at the beginning of painting for me, within the abstract expression, the process was very different. When I first started painting, and through the whole time that I painted within the abstract expression, it was a very spontaneous process for me. There was never any preconceived plans of what a painting would look like. I really just allowed each color and line to be created as it pleased, and afterwards I would look back and explore what I had created as a viewer more than as a creator. In 2010, I became a dad for the first time, and as the whole world around me changed, one of the biggest ways that my world changed was that I became a lot more aware of our environment and concerned about our environment. My voice changed about 6 years ago, and it was an intentional change. I found that painting abstract felt a lot more personal, and it felt almost as if the artwork was talking about me, as opposed to me talking about the things that I was concerned about that I saw around me. This painting from 2016, titled Dream Catchers, is the one single painting that documents the transition from my abstract expression to the surreal world that I currently explore. Looking back at this painting, I now realize that this little ship that I painted as a first subject that looked like something would guide the process of all paintings moving forward. At the beginning, when I first started painting within the surrealism world that I am currently exploring, I painted these big gradient skies, largely inspired by the skies that I was lucky enough to be able to ride my bicycle to and from work. And within these scenes, I played with the relationship between nature and machine, and I really made it intentional for it to feel like nature had an upper hand within whatever scenario was being discussed in these works. In a way, I feel like the big gradient skies from my early work taught me and guided me as much as they challenged me to paint these subjects and objects in as real of a form as possible. During these early paintings, I also explored amazing people that I found super inspirational. On the right-hand side, you see a photograph of my friend Dan Nanamkin, which was taken in 2017 at Standing Rock, where he defended clean water for all of us. And the more that I researched about Dan's work and his life, the more that I kept playing with the idea of the painting that you see on the left-hand side. And ultimately, this is the result of what that thought process was like. As Dan stands in the same concrete road, a confrontation of sorts looks like it has taken place. But now, because of Dan's efforts, it seems that Dan now is almost superhuman and possibly half human, half nature, and has been able to grow a lot of life around him, and maybe that life also now protects him. If you want to learn more about Dan's work, you can find a lot more information at nanamkin.com. I'm not sure if painting within the abstract expression for all those years helped or sped up a process of sorts in me taking on this new direction within my work. But I do recall early on, and maybe even sometimes today, being surprised when a painting comes through smoothly or when it looks the way that I envisioned it in my mind. This painting, titled Ghosts of the Past, I remember thinking about this idea and in a way being shocked of the contrast between water and desert, present and past, and kind of the blurry line that exists there between those two. In 2021, the most recent change within my voice took place when I created a series of new paintings that opened here in Portland. This painting, titled The Big Melt, was part of that series, and the series was named After We Are Gone. My voice today, I have come to understand, has evolved to allow the viewer of my work to be exposed to my work in a way where maybe there is a chuckle that is created, maybe there's a sense of playfulness or tenderness. And I've done that on purpose so that we can all connect to a piece of artwork in a positive way before realizing that what we are looking at is maybe not right. In this painting, you see all of our garbage that is swirling around a bear cub. And for me, what was really fun to explore within this idea was just how much effort we put into each one of these labels that we create, in each one of these things that are beautiful to look at individually, yet a lot of these items we end up only using for minutes before they are thrown away. This seal, besides being adorable, is obviously resting on a floaty, which isn't quite right. But for me, even bigger than that, I was really thinking through how it is that society has made it so that we look at products in a way that they feel like they're either masculine or feminine in order to be able to impact consumption in a greater way. And also, kind of at the end of it all, I was amused by the fact that the seal almost has this look of not knowing if they fit into this mold. here, the colorful and vibrant colors of organic matter and plastic and labels lays the foundation of what is going on within the scene. And I just pictured a really tired parent and almost in that moment where they're trying to put their baby to sleep, and how it is that we as humans purchase anything necessary through the different stages of our children in order to help them and soothe them, and also the fact that we don't necessarily consider buying any of these items like chewing toys or pacifiers used because we would not want to expose our children to that. Therefore, all of these items are quickly outgrown and thrown away. The evolution of my voice is something that took place and it was intentional. From when I used to paint in a form that spoke of me and felt that there was a bigger need within my creative voice to what it is today. And I guess at this point, the big question that people ask me all the time is there hope? Which I think is a funny question to ask the guy whose solution is for all of us to disappear. However, through my research, along with the people that I've talked about already, there have been other people that I am always surprised to find and inspired from this perspective of hope. One of those people is this man. Let me see if I can play this video. So I think for me, everyone's voice within a creative environment is different and unique to them. But what I have found is important within my voice is to show that there are ways that we can look at this in a different perspective. And I think that as I explore this environment more, it's really cool to see that there are glimpses of hope out there that do still exist. And when I was invited to be a part of this conversation, I also wanted to kind of take the time because I have been a full-time artist for 2 years now. And I, as I say frequently about many things, nothing I believe in life is perfect. It all comes with some good and some bad. But something that I wish somebody would have kind of told me when I was working a non-creative job for my entire life was that this life too is not perfect. It is a life that is surprisingly challenging in mental ways. It is silent, it is lonely, and if anybody here or anybody later listens to this, I guess I also wish that somebody would have told me that while I was working not in the creative field that I am today, that you are more than an artist. You are both what you do when you're doing it outside of your creative work, but also when you are creating. So just know that, I guess, is what I'm hoping to say. And so my creative voice currently excites me in a way that I see it heading down this path. But I think that what is really cool about being a creator is that I don't know what's going to happen next, and I look forward to being influenced in a way where my voice will continue to evolve. Thank you for your time. Yeah, totally.
Just repeat them into the mic.
Yes, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
First of all, I want to say thanks for sharing. Your work is really impactful and stirring.
Thank
I
you.
want to know kind of what that transition felt like for you personally in your voice between kind of that maybe more introspective, abstract expression and then feeling like you wanted to pivot into more of a message about the things that you felt. Like, kind of how did that feel as far as like fulfillment and purpose as an artist? What was that like?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that when I was painting abstract work, in a way I felt like that abstract work was giving me more than I was necessarily giving it, which I don't know if that makes sense, but during my time as a painter, an abstract painter, I always worked pretty high-stress jobs, and I always relied on art to carry me through the day. So my processes were to get home grumpy and stressed and paint in order to come back and then kind of begin my evening as myself. Where now, in a way, I feel that the work that I'm creating, the process doesn't necessarily give me what it used to give me, but I do get a sense of gratitude from what is created. So I would say that the everyday process of painting in the abstract form was a lot more giving, but finishing a piece of art now gives me what I never got to receive from abstract work.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
You said that you've only worked 2 years full time. I'm just kind of curious, what was your experience and jobs before? And then can you walk us through how you kind of came to become a full-time artist?
Yeah, I had been in various retail positions for just about my whole life. And as I continued to be in that world, I continued to take on more responsibility. So my last position was a district manager within the cannabis industry. What was the second part of that question?
Oh, like how did that transition into becoming full-time happen?
I would say that that transition happened over the 6 years of painting within the surrealist expression. What I found was that when I first painted within this genre, and it was kind of those 3 paintings with the big skies, people took notice of that immediately, where I felt like before, in those 19 years, my abstract work, one, I wasn't necessarily as excited to share because it felt too personal. But 2, I think it's just also more difficult to connect to abstract work. So when I started painting 6 years ago, I think there was a sense of confidence that came with what I was working on, and I think a sense of wanting to get my point of view across to a bigger audience for the first time, because I really felt like it was important for me to share my concerns and my worries. I would say that as terrible as social media is, it also is, I would say, what helped me in those beginning years of trying to just kind of get more exposure. And when it all comes down to it, I would say that reaching out to as many people as possible, not being afraid to do the things that people tell you not to do, And I would say that the biggest example that I have for that is I work with a gallery in LA, ThinkSpace, and one of the founders of the gallery is known for saying, don't just DM someone, but I DM'd him. And it just so happened that I think time and luck and a few different things kind of all came together, because when I did, he responded with, hey, your work is cool. It's not there yet, but let me know when you finish the paintings that you're speaking of. And I did, and it just so happened that he was having a show here in Portland. And he said, cool, I'll take that piece and show it. And that was the first step that took me in the direction of showing my work in galleries. Besides that, I think just obsessing over the work. I know that it's said by many people, but I paint 10 to 12 hours a day, and I can not see it any other way, because it needs to look as good as possible. And I think that if you obsess over it, it will pay back. Yeah.
Along that same line, was there ever a time where you felt like your consistency wanted to cease in you, but you had to keep going? Like you felt this urge to keep going, but you also felt like, I don't know if I want to, or like there was like a stumble in it in any way?
All the time. I question my path constantly. I think that, the grass is greener on the other side. And I envisioned this life that I'm lucky enough to live as perfect. And it's not. I think that it's a very unpredictable way to live. You are kind of going, and I'll always be a painter. I don't know if I'll always be a full-time painter, and that's the reality of it, because as you're catching momentum and as you're going, it gets to the point where, maybe artwork hasn't sold, maybe, your kid needs braces, there's things that happen, and health insurance. And I've come across many of those, and somehow in that moment, every time so far, I get news that makes me keep going, whether it's a couple pieces that I've sold, or insurance worked out, or whatever it might be. So yes, it's a very silly way to live, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah.
Are you just wondering what work you're doing right now, what type of work you're, after showing all these amazing concepts, is there a concept you would like to explore in the future, or would you like to stay in the same, exploring how the world will look like with plastic and all this pollution, or is there something, a different thing that you want to explore?
Yeah, I am currently still very excited about this world. I do have a series that I'm currently working on that'll open here in Portland, and I continue to speak of this, and I think that there's still a lot to be said here, but I know that my voice will change, and I don't know what it will transition to necessarily. But it will, but for now, I'm happy to be here. Was there a question back there? Yeah.
So if art was the thing that you were doing when you were working full-time in another capacity that kind of made you feel more like yourself, and now you're doing this for your job, 10 to 12 hours a day, do you feel like you have a need for something that you do outside of painting, to help unwind? Or
Yes.
I'm so fulfilled because I'm doing the thing that I like?
Yeah. Yes. I currently lean heavily on playing with my children. I think play has always been a place where I am inspired and fulfilled in a way. I think that the longer I do this, the more that I realize that I will need something else, and I don't know what that is yet. I went from a pretty high-stress job to silence, and it happened overnight. And I think now that I've been doing this for 2 years, I do see a need for me to kind of incorporate something else into the routine that allows me to interact with people, to help solve more complex puzzles that maybe are not creative. And maybe they are creative, I'm not sure, but I do believe that now I do see that there is like a need for a slight adjustment in order to make it feel more balanced. Yeah.
What do your kids think of your work?
That's a good question. They think it's funny. They think it's, they see the value in it. And also they call me out whenever they see something that isn't saying something loud enough. And I think it's cool to have those bumpers in place where I'm getting harsh, direct honesty when I'm working on art. Because sometimes it can tend to get too silly where the point is blurred, and it can get too serious where it's no longer fun. So I think they are in support, and I think that they love it. Yeah.
Do you listen to anything while you're painting?
Oh God, I listen to it all. Yeah, I'm podcasts. I mean, it's like music. I listen to music every day, and I think right now I'm taking a break from music because it seems that it's the same songs that keep playing over and over. Audible books are always nice to kind of just escape a little bit. I started watching news as I was painting, and then I realized that was not the right way to do it. So yeah, I think that listening is a big part of it. I think that there's being a full-time artist comes with having the right things to listen to, having a routine that is healthy. So I'm very structured with my day. I start my day at 6 a.m. I have breakfast at 8 a.m. I take the dog on a walk at 12 p.m. I incorporate doing exercise with my son who does soccer twice a week. Like for me, that's what I found was necessary in order for me to not honestly lose my mind, which is something that I did not expect. Yeah.
With digital photography, I feel like it's kind of easy to lose track of the scale of the works. Like, what's your approach to that, like, thought process?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Now I paint in a scale that is as similar as possible to the stuff that I paint. So whatever it is that you saw after really 2022, last year was the first year that I became really intrigued with showing pieces of artwork that had those items that are the size that we see them in real life. So like the gorilla painting with the whipped cream, that's actually a work in progress. It'll be opening next month at Antler Gallery in Northeast Portland. But like that one, it took me a few tries to get the whipped cream can to be the right size, which then I found was really cool because it's a bigger piece so that the little baby gorilla could also be the size that they would be in the wild. Yeah.
Do you have any hopes or desires for people who come to see your work or come to a show and walk out? Like, are there things you hope that they take with them or actions you hope they take?
Yes. That was part of my presentation that I didn't say. So thanks for asking that. Yeah, I think ultimately what I hope the viewer gets is, and I think that the piece of corruption that I related to most is that there are many things that we just can't control in today's society. There are many problems that are too big for us to try to even make an impact around. But I think that the problem that we're facing is so large that we must still focus on what we can control. And with my artwork, what I try to communicate is that plastic thing that we are looking at buying will hang out longer than we are around. So no matter how cool and fun and exciting it is, and I'm guilty of it too, like I'm not going around not buying anything, but I think just kind of getting people to think, okay, do I need this little claw grabber thing? Like this will linger for hundreds of years after I'm gone. Is that a necessary purchase? And I think that it's easy for us to feel like that decision in that moment doesn't make a difference, but if we all make the decision to not get that thing, and there's 8 billion of us here, I mean, think of all that stuff that we don't put in the ocean. Thank you so much, everyone. It was lovely being here.